According to Albert Einstein, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result. That is what Americans are doing by continuing to drive unsafely. Now that I've covered why this issue is important and why Americans are currently not doing enough to prevent this type of behavior, I will now cover some alternative options to these driving behaviors. These options will cover the previously discussed areas of speeding, distractions, and position. Americans must recognize this issue of driver safety, change their bad driving habits, and stop putting everyone on the road in danger. Speeding. I've talked about the reasons that Americans have for doing it and why these reasons are invalid. I've talked about the tremendous cost in dollars and in lives it causes. So how do we change this behavior? It has to be a twofold attack where the state takes responsibility through increased fines and increased law enforcement action. The state also has to make driving courses more available or even mandatory for drivers so they can learn the dangers of speeding. Often the state makes you take driving courses after you've done some wrongdoing, but there needs to be more of a proactive approach. Make drivers take courses from certified driving instructors before they get behind the wheel. The more you know about speeding, the less you're going to do it. The second fold involves driver accountability. Americans must decide that they're going to be safe on the road. Don't worry about what other people are doing. Just make it a personal decision that you're going to be safe on the road no matter what. We can change this. If each person can enact this attitude, then our roads would be safer one vehicle at a time. Next, let's look at distractions. It's a hard thing to fix given the short attention span of America today. However, it can be done, and the key to fixing this problem is making it important. The problem is actually getting worse every year because Americans don't take this issue seriously. The only ones who actually take this issue seriously are the ones who have been affected by it, usually through the loss of a loved one. For some reason, Americans can hear about people dying, stories of tragedy on TV, and see laws being passed on the issue and still get in their cars and text and drive to their friends. As all these issues of driving safety, education is key. Lawmakers must come up with a practical and cost-efficient way to make driving education mandatory, at least for teen drivers who dominate this issue of distracted driving, mostly through texting and driving. As always, each individual has to take responsibility for their own driving. Make it important. Give yourself a reminder if that's what it takes. Put a piece of tape on your phone to remind yourself not to text and drive. You can turn off your phone until you get to your destination, or at least wait until it's safe to see who has texted or called you. I promise you that that call or text can wait a couple minutes until you can safely check it. Each driver can come up with their own personal way to help themselves stop texting and driving. But the important thing is that we start a culture that does not stand for this type of behavior. Lastly, I want to look at position. As with other topics, drivers need to be educated in this driving position. Very few drivers actually know what the correct following distance is, or how to change lanes properly, or how to prevent accidents altogether. First, drivers need to remember that the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration's 3-second rule, which is the correct following distance for any driver traveling any speed. And all it is when the car in front of you passes a fixed object, a sign, a pole, light, whatever, 3 seconds after that, 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, 3 Mississippi, that's when you should reach that same object. And this is under perfect driving conditions, you know, light traffic, perfect weather, those type things. If the weather is worse or there's heavier traffic, then obviously that distance would be greater, maybe 8 seconds or 10 seconds. When changing lanes, drivers should remember the SMOG technique, which is given by the Georgia Department of Transportation. It's an acronym and it stands for signals, mirrors, over your shoulder, and go. So when you get ready to change lanes, signal your intentions, check your mirrors, look over your shoulder, and then go. This is the most effective way to prevent accidents when changing lanes. To prevent an accident altogether is as simple as surrounding yourself with as much space as possible, according to the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration. You don't always have to travel with the pack. If there's some open space away from others, take it. Don't ride in people's blind spots, and every time someone cuts in front of you, back off some to get your following distance back. In conclusion, it is up to you, America, to make this a safer place for us to live. Change the way you think about your driving. Make it an opportunity to show others how to drive safely. Be an example. Let your friends and family see you driving safely. Remember that driving is a privilege, not a right. It is a privilege that can easily be taken away and get you into a lot of trouble. Think about the people who are currently serving jail time for an accident. I was just speeding, or I was just texting, or I was just tailgating. What you're really doing is setting yourself up for a disaster. Think about it, America. Always ask yourself, is it worth it?